What if a simple video game from the 80s holds the key to fixing one of the most frustrating problems in fantasy writing? I'm talking about the invisible disconnect when the character you imagine and the character you write feel like two different people. After 25 years of writing and deconstructing stories, I can tell you the problem isn't a lack of talent, it's your mental model. So in this video, I'm going to reveal how a psychological phenomenon called the Tetris Effect is the key to dissolving that wall. And I'll then give you a simple framework that will permanently change how you see through your character's eyes. But to understand how the solution works, we first need to explore the fascinating science behind the problem itself. In 1984, a simple but profoundly addictive puzzle game emerged from the Soviet Union, Tetris. Players who spent hours rotating and dropping these falling blocks, known as tetrominos, began to report a strange side effect. Long after they'd switched off the game, they would see the world differently. When they closed their eyes, they'd see the phantom shapes of falling blocks. They'd dream about clearing lines. And walking through a supermarket, they would subconsciously start rearranging cereal boxes on the shelf to make them fit together more neatly. This phenomenon became known as the Tetris Effect. I certainly can attest to this myself, having experienced this mental echo of puzzle games many times, not just after playing Tetris. It's a powerful demonstration of how our brains learn. When you perform a single focused activity for a long time, your brain creates a kind of mental shortcut. It becomes so efficient at that one pattern of thinking that it starts applying that same pattern to everything. This isn't just about video games. An architect might walk through an old city and instinctively see structural loads and support beams, not just beautiful buildings. A doctor might watch a film and subconsciously diagnose a character's cough. Their profession has become a lens. It has rewired their perception. So what does this strange mental echo have to do with your fantasy characters, whether they are a master swordsman or a reclusive wizard? Well, everything actually. The Tetris Effect proves a fundamental truth. Expertise isn't just a set of action you can perform. It's a permanent filter that changes how you perceive reality. Your brain gets wired to see the world through the lens of your deepest skills. And when we fail to apply this truth to our characters, it creates a subtle but profound flaw, a disconnect that is the root cause of so many flat, unconvincing protagonists. I call this problem skill amnesia. It's a silent ailment that infects our characters when their supposed lifetime of experience is completely absent from their moment-to-moment thoughts and perceptions. We, the writers, know they are master of their craft, but the characters themselves seem to have forgotten. Let me make this tangible. Think about one of the most common fantasy archetypes, the veteran soldier. You've written that he's survived a dozen campaigns, he's a hardened survivor, but then you place him in a tavern scene, and the narration describes nothing but the flickering candles, the rowdy patrons, the spilled ale. It's a generic description. The soldier is just a passenger in the scene waiting for the plot to happen to him. This is skill amnesia in its purest form. A man whose brain has been rewired by years of life or death conflict wouldn't just see a tavern. His cognitive filter, forged in battle, would be a threat assessment machine. He would subconsciously clock the exits. He'd eye the mercenary band in the corner with their hands too close to their swords. He'd notice the bartender's nervous glance toward the back room. The soldier's perception would be an active, ongoing process of survival. Without that filter, he's not a veteran soldier, he's just a tourist wearing armor. When we fail to show this, we betray the character's history. This gap between the backstory we imagine and the consciousness we portray is the ultimate immersion killer. It's a reason a character with a fascinating concept can feel hollow in the execution. And it causes that nagging sense that the story isn't quite living up to its potential. So how do we fix this? How do we cure skill amnesia and start writing characters who feel truly deeply alive in their own skin? We do it by consciously building the very lens their life experience would have forged for them. This lens, forged by a lifetime of focused experience, is what I call the cognitive filter. Now, this isn't just a storytelling gimmick. It's a principle deeply rooted in cognitive psychology. It relates to something called schema theory, the idea that our brains build mental models to categorize and interpret information. An expert's brain simply has a much more detailed and specialized schema for their chosen field. And the great storytellers have always understood this instinctively. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was a master of it. Think about Sherlock Holmes. When Holmes and Watson enter a crime scene, they do not perceive the same reality. Watson sees a cluttered study, but Holmes' filter, honed by years of deductive reasoning, immediately observes the nearly invisible scuff marks on the floor, the particular type of cigar ash on the mantel, the faint scent of a rare perfume. Each observation is instantly processed and interpreted through his unique mental model. That's why Holmes can glance at a man's hat and deduce his entire life story. Doyle wasn't just writing a detective, he was writing a walking, talking cognitive filter. So how do we, as writers who aren't Arthur Conan Doyle, replicate this effect with intention and consistency? The answer is to translate that intuitive mastery into a reliable process. This is exactly what the cognitive filter framework is designed to do. It's a tool of pure craft that takes the guesswork out of writing a deep point of view, giving you a clear, step-by-step method for building your character's unique worldview directly into your prose. A powerful cognitive filter is not just one thing. It's a seamless three-part process that happens in a fraction of a second inside your character's mind. It begins with observation. This is the subconscious process that dictates what details in the environment even register as important. Think of your character's expertise as a spotlight. While a normal person's spotlight is wide and not focused, your expert's is a laser, instantly locking onto the one detail that matters to their skill set. Not a choice, it is an instinct. This is their unique sensory input, what they automatically see, hear, or smell that everyone else would miss. But an observation is meaningless without the second layer, interpretation. This is where the story truly happens. Your character's expertise acts as a vast mental library, allowing them to instantly connect that tiny observed detail to a larger pattern, a hidden threat, or a priceless opportunity. This is what transforms a simple detail into a plot point. A crack in a wall isn't just a crack. To a master stonemason, it's a sign of a failing foundation that could bring down the whole castle. This is why conflict and stakes are born from the very act of noticing. Finally, the third layer solidifies the perspective: language. Now, this isn't just about using jargon. This is about how your character's expertise shapes their internal monologue, their metaphors, and their very way of thinking. A blacksmith doesn't just see a strained relationship. They might think of it having stress fractures. A sailor facing a political challenge might see it as navigating treacherous currents. This is the final layer that makes your character's voice and point of view feel truly deeply authentic. So let's move this from theory to practice. We'll start with a passage that could come from a perfectly competent first draft. It sets the scene, but it lacks that vital spark of deep perspective. Tiram led the way into the forest. The ancient oaks formed a thick canopy overhead, casting the world into a deep gloom. The ground was soft and damp underfoot after the morning's rain. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with these sentences, but they are being told from a narrator's detached god's eye view. The character is just a figure in a landscape. He isn't truly experiencing it, and that's because the prose lacks a point of view. So let's rebuild this exact moment by applying the three layers of the cognitive filter for two very different characters. First, let's step into the mind of Tiram, the ranger. His entire life has been a masterclass in survival, and the Tetris effect of that constant vigilance has turned his brain into a hyper-vigilant anomaly detector. For him, the three layers of the filter work in perfect instinctual harmony. His observation layer doesn't just see scenery, it detects anomalies. So his attention is immediately snagged by an unnatural silence, a complete lack of birdsong. His eyes go beyond just damp ground. They lock onto a set of tracks, noting the weight and stride are too heavy for a deer. That sensory data is instantly fed through his interpretation layer, his vast mental library of threats, which tells him that silence equals a predator, and the tracks mean it's close and large. This entire process is then framed by his internal language of survival, as the meaning of the space shifts from forest to a map of sightlines, cover, and potential ambush points. By weaving those three layers together, we can produce prose that is alive with perspective. Tiram entered the forest, and a cold knot tightened in his gut. The feeling came before the reason, a primal instinct honed by years of being both hunter and hunted. Then his conscious mind caught up. The silence. Not a single birdsong, only the damp suck of his boots on the moss. He scanned the canopy, not for the sun, but for sightlines. Then his gaze locked on the game trail ahead. A single white birch twig, freshly snapped. Something heavy had passed this way, and recently. In an instant, his hand went to the hilt of his sword. This wasn't a forest. This was a trap. Now that's one version of reality forged in battle. But to show the true power of this technique, let's bring our second character to that exact same spot, a scholar of herbalism. Her life in libraries and laboratories has wired her brain to see the world not as a set of threats, but as a complex biological system waiting to be deciphered. Her filter operates on an entirely different frequency. Her observation layer isn't turned to danger but to discovery. She doesn't just see trees, she identifies the distinctive peeling bark of silverwood. Her attention is captured by a patch of rare emerald green moss, a species that thrives only under specific conditions. This data is then instantly cross-referenced by her interpretation layer, which tells her the silverwood means they are much further north than the maps suggested, and that the moss is a priceless bioindicator of a powerful latent magical field. The herbalist's internal language, contrary to Tirum's ones of survival, is one of science and wonder, using terms like genius, properties, and regions as she deciphers the story the ecosystem is telling her. Filtering this moment through her unique consciousness could give her something like this. Almara stepped into the forest and a gasp escaped her lips. The air, thick and cool, carried the scent of pine and rich loamy earth. Silverwood. She ran a hand over the peeling bark, her mind racing with implications. The maps were wrong. But then her eyes fell to the forest floor and her heart stopped. Nestled at the roots of an oak was a patch of king's moss, its emerald sheen unmistakable. A species thought to be extinct, one that could only grow in magically charged soil. She knelt, oblivious to the damp seeping into her robes. This wasn't a mere forest. This was a discovery that would change everything. And there you have it, the same place, but two radically different realities, each driven by the character's core identity. What these two examples demonstrate is the framework in action, transforming prose from a simple description into a multi-layered narrative experience. The setting becomes an active reflection of the character's internal world. Every detail serves a triple purpose. It builds the world, it reveals the protagonist's unique psychology, and it often advances the plot through their perception alone. This is the shift from merely reporting a story to truly inhabiting it. By consciously applying the three layers, observation, interpretation, and language, we give our characters their memory back. We give them a mind. And that is the key to dissolving the wall between the page and the reader, the final step in making the magnificent character in our hearts come alive for the world. But here's the thing, creating a believable internal world for your character is only half the battle. You also have to build a believable external world for them to live in. And this is where so many writers get tripped up by a hidden trap. Paradox where being historically accurate can actually make your world feel less real to the reader. This dangerous pitfall is called the Tiffany problem, and understanding it is the key to building a world that feels immersive and tonally consistent, not jarring. So watch this video here next. It breaks down exactly what the Tiffany problem is and gives you the tools to turn it from a trap into a powerful part of world-building craft.